Hi, good morning, good afternoon. We have a couple of folks here joining on. Can you guys hear me? Let me know if you guys can see my screen. Hi, can you guys hear me? All right, well, looks like we have 3 people here joining. Hi, the Vineyards. Thank you for joining. Yeah, I am trying to make it a practice to go live on the Saturday weekend. Um, Still trying to figure out like a time that works best. I had to start a little earlier today because I'll be busy throughout the rest of the day. So hopefully I can get in this live session, see what questions everyone has, and I'd love to answer any questions that anyone has. So if you have like a question or any updates you'd like to share, please feel free to put in the chat. But I would put a Q in the front and just ask the question. It's been a great year so far, 2025. We've seen some big price actions in the Bitcoin market, especially with the events leading up to uh, Trump getting into the White House. That'll happen on Wednesday. But one thing I wanted to share is what an interesting post from Mara. They mined Trump 47 block that was announced yesterday just to represent Donald Trump. And what's interesting is that Mara, they mined this block here in their own Mara pool. So just so that you could take a look at that, that's just going to be history at one point. So that's such a beautiful photo there that will resonate for a long time. Just look at that. We're going to be in this golden era, with United States being the powerhouse of Bitcoin reserve. I think there's just going to be so much upside here, and given that it's Trump's last term here before he raises the white towel, there's just going to be so much upside pro Bitcoin. It's really driving change in the financial institutions, especially when you have financial institutions touching on a commodity. That's when everyone starts following along, even retail investors, switching their 401k, their Roth, their IRAs to start hedging and buying up, ETFs related to Bitcoin. But I think that's a huge testament here. Just looking at Bitcoin price, I mean, we saw really good price action. Bitcoin institutions, interest rate surges. BlackRock's ETF, they continue to buy. They're like right behind MSTR, but like Vanguard, BlackRock, just buying up ETFs. I mean, they just purchased another 5,250 Bitcoin that eventually will just deplete Bitcoin. And we see here just price going up, just the 1 week trajectory. I mean, this was a great time to buy here at Bitcoin, 89,000, but it only lasted at 89,000 for like a couple minutes, and then it just got bought up. It just got sucked up. But a lot of people were selling off Bitcoin, especially when the price was like, early January, heading into like early mid January. There was that slight sell off. People were saying, "Oh, Bitcoin's going to start going down," but I think we passed the halving event. There's going to be, hey Kong, thank you for joining, man. I appreciate you joining here and love the hearts and all that. I appreciate everyone being able to get on board here. Still trying to figure out a time that works best, but I'm trying to make it a Saturday thing. So I'll kind of give you guys heads up, on what time works best. Yep, and I always love your comments, Kong, and the questions that you put. So any questions, anyone has, put it in the chat and we'll talk about it. But, just talking about Bitcoin, like just recently, about like 5 days ago, there was like a lot more uncertainty. But after the inflation data came in, things started easing. We saw more certainty. And I think the price action is beginning to go up because, with Biden giving his farewell speech, we have Trump setting up, getting ready for that stage where he's going to announce, the executive order, provide more updates. And he's even indicated that, on day one, day zero, he's going to provide updates on, what he intends to do for the Bitcoin reserve strategy. And we're hearing a lot of states right now trying to get in. I mean, we heard about Pennsylvania, we've heard about Texas, and now Missouri getting on board. So eventually, these states are really going to start working with the U.S. government and try to get things going, trying to hodl up Bitcoin. I mean, combating inflation is a real thing. I think all of this is really going to drive up the price of Bitcoin. We have forecasts going up to 200K. But just looking at Bitcoin appreciation, they're at rank 7 here, $2 trillion. We hear that Bitcoin is going to bypass gold. Gold is number 1 here at $18 trillion. You have big time companies like Apple, Nvidia, Microsoft, Google, Amazon. Eventually, Bitcoin is just going to start climbing the ladder and start bypassing all of these, these commodities here. So it'll be interesting. So let me know what your questions are down below. Thank you all for joining here. We got a total of 9 people joining. Appreciate you all joining here. Just any questions, but we just saw really good upside. Even MSTR started, showing some progress. Things are tightening up from a technicals just update. I mean, just looking at the technicals, we all know that back in 2024, MSTR, it went up to that high point of 550, and then we had some short created. Citron, they shorted the company. Things started going down. There was that falling wedge there back in November, and then we started seeing just continuous downward movements, but things are beginning to tighten up. That's the key thing, looking at technicals. RSI, it went down to the low point 35, but we're seeing things tighten up here. Good news is that we see MSCR breaking through that Ichimoku cloud. Price action now getting back up to 396. I think it's going to hover back up into the 400, like what I was indicating. But all of this is really going to be driving up the price of the miners. We see MSTR perform. We're going to start seeing other stocks perform as well. MSTR, just to note, 2023, 2024, they did very well. Miners did very bad in 2024. Okay, so question from Kong here. In 2025, what's more important, Bitcoin HODL amount or growing the business and working on hash rate and efficiency? Very good point there. So I think that is very dynamic. But what I'm going to say is just based on my own input, and I'd love to hear what everyone thinks here. Let's just see what everyone thinks. What's the more important variable here? I think from a near-term, mid-term perspective, HODL amount is key because we know that Bitcoin is going to double in price, or that at least is what is expected in the year 2025. A lot of the HODL factor didn't come into play in 2024. Prices, like for Mara, CleanSpark, Riot, it went down huge. But what did we see? Um, we saw that now in the beginning of the year, we're seeing Mara, CleanSpark, Riot. There's more upside here. We're seeing it beginning to go up. And I think because we have Trump on board, we have to factor in that now we have that strategic Bitcoin reserve being live. And once that executive order comes into play, we're going to see a lot more direction updates. And I think that that's really going to drive up the price. And what we're seeing with like Mara, for example, they're loaning out their Bitcoins. In fact, just with the recent news that they released, I mean, just Mara, from their production data, they mined, close to 900 Bitcoins. But what did they do? They also loaned out 7,000 Bitcoin. Think of that as like a car dealer or a bank where you're loaning out like, a mortgage, but you got to pay interest on that. Same deal there. Similar to a car dealership. So like a BMW, a consumer wants to lease out a car for 3 years. So basically, the consumer doesn't own the car, but you gotta pay monthly for using the car. Same deal there. So Mara has created a strategy for capitalizing on having money be paid to them by allowing others to spot their Bitcoin, but technically Mara owns that Bitcoin still. So that's the interesting thing. That's very dynamic. I think, yeah, to your point, Kong. But thank you for that question. It got me thinking about just how the dynamics of the business is changing. So I think that was the proposal that Mara would have shared to those that allowed for the approval for the convertible note bond. They've already thought about being that lender leasing out their bitcoins, even though what they have leased out, they still count that in their financial balance sheet as HODL. So it's technically still Mara's. It's not anyone else's, but others are able to lease out the Bitcoin for whatever reason, whether it's for ETFs, spot exchanges. So that's interesting. Yep. So Bitcoin Bank is the new game changer. So Mara count, I mean, close to that HODL, you see here, Mara, just that disparity that's created. Interestingly, we also have Riot. The numbers aren't updated here, but they're at around, they're close to 18,000. So a little less than half of what Mara has. But also, Riot and Mara, they're ahead of the race here. But if you look at like other companies, CleanSpark, they're neck to neck with Hut 8 right now. But you see behind that, there's a lot of other miners that are far behind. You think of CleanSpark, they're like neck and neck with Tesla, for example. But I think, let's say if there's no acquisition of Bitcoin, CleanSpark will start increasing their HODL count because of their hash rate just ramping up. But from a long-term perspective, we'll see progression of CleanSpark going up. But I think that it won't catch up to like big time player like Mara, for example. But great question there, Kong. I really appreciate that. So here, Raz, thank you for joining, man. So Raz, when do you think 20% short of Riot will stop? So great question. Okay, so just looking at short interest here. Let's take a look. So before we talk about Riot, let's look at short interest with CleanSpark. So these are a couple filing dates here in regards to short interests. So you'll see here, like, the big time shorters is like Jane Street back in November. We have that's during that run up, right? When the price was like $18 for CleanSpark. So Jane, they're ahead right now. They can cover. You have like Citadel, November timeframe. So they sold the news there. They created puts. But looking at the short interest, 26% here, short interest. But let's take a look at RIOT short interest. All right, so short interest here, a little less. So days to cover, 2.53 days, 21%. Okay, so then we see here some recent activity with short shares available back. I think that, just overall, funds shorting. So let's take a look at, who's shorting RIOT. So just recently 150K was locked in here. We see like the big players, Jane Street again, similar to CleanSpark. So that's been holding the price down. Just looking at the technicals, that's the, that Ichimoku cloud barrier. But I think short interest, I think there's going to be some coverage that will have to, be covered by the shorters in the next couple of days, because we have financial results going to be released. With CleanSpark, for example, they're announcing their Q4 data in about 20 days. So I think short interest percent. I mean, if those shorters want to take a risk, they can hold on to it. But I think that call options are building up, similar to what we've seen with Mara. Call options, I mean, just blew up just recently. Why? Because I think that people believe that in Q1 there's going to be that prior retest. So if and when price of Mara along with CleanSpark RIOT starts reaching its prior resistance, so like Mara testing that $30, RIOT testing that $15, $18, CleanSpark retesting that $18. I think a lot of the short interests, the shorters are going to get impacted. But as we get up to these top prices here, short interest percent may start increasing based on people trying to take a short interest, similar to what we saw with the time frame here when these short interest puts were created back in November, right? So sell the news type of moments. Jane Street, they created a put on CleanSpark and RIOT during that run-up time frame. So they're going to just try to pinpoint that. They'll cover the prices, they'll buy back shares once it starts running up, and let's say once we see that retest back into that green zone, they're going to most likely try to create more puts. So I hope that answers the question there based on their strategy of trying to make money. All right, so it looks like we have more people joining here. Thank you all for joining. I appreciate everyone's involvement here. And Kong, just wanted to, call out Kong for his, his great support along with others here. Raz, thanks for the question. So question from FF Sky Corp. How does BITO ETF that follows Bitcoin gives an insane 55% dividend? Oh my goodness, 55% dividend. That is alarming numbers. I don't have an answer to that. All I really know is like, BITX, IBIT, there's ARC, Bitcoin ETFs. But BITO, that's interesting, 55% dividend. So I think it really depends on why there's a 55% dividend. That's a big time anomaly. And how often do they pay out those dividends is my question. right? Is it like, it can't be quarterly or annually, I wouldn't think. Otherwise, that financial institution will go bankrupt. Oh, monthly. Um, I think there might be a trade-off. I mean, because that's just so much upside, whether that's like a company trying to grow, because if they pay out 55% dividends, they might go broke unless their expense ratio for the ETF is high, which kind of offsets that, that dividend percentage. But I think the whole intent of dividend is that it creates stability with shareholders wanting to stay with with a company or an ETF. That's interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Yep, of course, Raz. I hope that helped, and that gave me more of a understanding as well, just with that question. So thank you. Uh, uh, Travel. Okay, so is 1995 still a good pool for Mara? Thank you. Okay, so just looking at Mara, what happened recently? What did we see? November time, $30. I mean, we've seen Mara perform very well. I mean, Mara is like a strong company. We've seen Mara like have some strong performance, but what do we see like from November all the way to like January 13? The price action, just technicals, it's below that Ichimoku cloud. So if you see that Ichimoku cloud there, it's above all of that here. So we see descending resistance here, lower lows from a near-term perspective, right? Obviously, we are trying to like pinpoint price action, right, over the course of time here. But I think, if you're to capitalize on just buying, you know anything sub 20, I think you're in a good state. Even if you bought like in the 21, 22 zone, I think that's okay, because we know that there's always going to be probability of occurrences where it's going to go back up to that, above that yellow tier 23 here, above that $30 tier here. So I think that there's going to be those run-ups, probability of occurrence for it to get to 24. I put that at like 85%, in Q1. Probability of occurrence for it to reach $30, I say that's going to be 70% in the year 2025. So there's huge upside if you look at it from a statistics point of view, which I try to kind of apply as well. But I may be wrong at times as well, because we saw like the fluctuations, up down. You saw that like 4 times within a duration of a year, but we didn't see that, like with all the miners, towards the later quarters of the year. Yep. So, yep, of course, man. I thought that was a great question. Definitely some upside. I took advantage of Mara when it was like, the last couple of weeks when it was like going down, like, here more of a zoomed out perspective. But like last Friday, right? What happened last Friday? I mean, just a recent Friday, we saw some huge run ups, right? But what happened during last Friday? It was like going from like $17, $16. I actually bought more at around $17. I didn't get it at the high 16, but when it bleeds, people just get very turned off by it. Like, oh, what's going on with Mara? It has the biggest HODL count. Eventually, other companies are going to catch up to it. But that Mara has a huge HODL. Just that short interest. I think people are just trying to capitalize right before the inauguration. But we saw what we saw on Friday with Mara, like the leading workhorse. I think HODL starts playing a bigger factor because Trump's starting to, he's going to be entering the White House. So all of that is factored in, and I think we're going to see that run up to like $30, and just scaling out like from a just a zoomed out perspective, we essentially saw what Mara did, a long time ago. Like we scaled back, years ago, uh, going from like $2 to $80 back in like 2020, 2021. So it's been dormant for quite some time, and I think there's going to be that huge run up for sure. Yep. But thanks for your question, Travel. All right. So comment here, Kong. I've been buying Mara, Clean Spark, MSTR. Yeah, that's these dips have been. Yep, I was gonna say that these dips have been just amazing. And one way to make your day good, even though the price goes down, is buying on the dips. And it's like, oh, okay, I took advantage of the dips. Um, but I know that not everyone can do that. But if you have enough to sprinkle and be able to buy the dips, whether it's only like $50, $100, take advantage of that. Okay, looks like we got Robbie here. Thanks for joining, Robbie. Has to add more Mara under incredible opportunities. Yep. Okay, I'm going to start a poll here. So just wanted to get a gauge of what everyone thinks in terms of you know uh, Bitcoin price, because everything is baseline from the price of Bitcoin. So we have the poll going on there just to get everyone's gauge on the price of Bitcoin. All right, so we have Mr. Siong joining. Thank you for joining, man. I think this is great having the frequent commenters on and the supporters here. Thanks for joining. Added a bunch of CLSK 2 weeks ago. So what was that price 2 weeks ago? Was that like at around $9, low $9? Yeah, just buying up Clean Spark, Mara during these downtimes have been just great opportunities. Yeah, $9. Yeah, I was buying Clean Spark as well. It's like on days when you have the funds, when you try to evaluate what should I buy. Should I buy Clean Spark? Should I buy RIOT, Mara, or should I buy IREN or even Bitfarm or another company stock? Should I buy altcoins? Um, that all factors in, but like the one that goes down the most that day, I'll just buy that. All right, so this is great. Thank you all for joining. All right, so then Raz, before there was only minor stocks to buy by institution, but now they have Bitcoin ETF. Did you think miners will run like past cycles? So that's a great question. So there's a lot of people that say, oh, miners, they're not going to have that ability to make that run again. Um, that was just a one-time deal, and some of the reasons behind that is there's more shares available, there's more competitors, but on the contrarian side of things, we've seen altcoins be able to do it, like you call it like the OG coins, like XLM, Stellar Lumens, Ripple, XRP. We've been hearing a lot about that, even Dogecoin and all that. We've seen what happened in the altcoins, during the bull runs, right? For example, Dogecoin from 7 cents to huge run ups, even, XRP, XLM. So there's just been like 7x runs, all that, the OG returning coins. But if that happens in the altcoins, as well as even stocks, right? Like quantum computing, you saw QUBT. I remember making videos of like QUBT back in 2020. when it had big bull runs. But what did we see with QUBT recently? Sub $1, and it just ran all the way up to $25. So I think because we see the potential in other sectors based on seasonality, and when I say seasonality, this is like years out, right? Like 4 to 5 years. There's no reason for the miners not having that ability to do so as well. Okay, so Raz, I hope that answers. But I think with what you brought up, Bitcoin ETFs, does that impact it? So, Bitcoin ETFs is more so hedged against the commodity Bitcoin, but there's a push and pull mechanism in that if you don't have miners, we don't even have Bitcoin. And without Bitcoin, you won't have miners. So there's that variable A and B, but you have to kind of look at the the difference there. But I would say Bitcoin ETF more so stabilizes the price of uh, of Bitcoin, and because we see variation in correlation between price action with the miners as well as Bitcoin. To some degree, we see some correlation, right? But there's no causation aspect. I think that overall, miners have that ability to make just fast run-ups. So hope that gave you some answer there. Oh, wow. So that's cool. Can't go wrong with the top five. So Mr. Siong here got in at 9:30. Oh man, these are all great. I mean, we're in the green zone, right? Um, so I think hopefully everyone is in the green. You may not be in the green, but I hope that we're able to capitalize being in the green. Trump is going to be starting soon. I think there's just going to be great opportunities here. Even Mara, they mined their Trump 47 block, historical visual marker here. This is all marketing. What Mara did is purely marketing, and Trump loves this when companies like market him, and there's going to be that dynamic partnership. So U.S. strategic Bitcoin reserve through these executive orders, we're going to hear these incentives with companies in the government, right? Uh, Mara alone, they've already loaned out 7,000 Bitcoins, leasing that out for money. But what does that all do? That's just going to drive up the price of these miners. Clean Spark, huge upside. I mean, dropping from like 17, $18 down to like $9, dropping 50%. I mean, let's say you have your whole entire funds in Clean Spark. You see half of that drop within a matter of like 6 weeks. But I hope that for those who've seen that drop, hopefully you don't sell, you just be patient, because it's going to climb back up. That's the whole analysis of miners. Things fluctuate quite often, so it's important for us to really analyze and pinpoint these things here. But when things are down, take advantage, because there's a lot of swing traders, day traders, especially in the mining sector, even in MSTR as well. There's a lot of sharpshooters in these type of categories. But we're seeing here, just bullish signals with MSTR. Technicals are building up. MSTR is tightening up. We don't see that falling knife anymore. There's no cat bounce that we're seeing. So I think that we're beginning to see that cup and handle form, which I think MSTR heavily correlates with Bitcoin. But I think that we're going to start seeing the miners take advantage. And why do I like the miners so much? I think it's because they hold on to Bitcoin, right? Like at least the main HODL companies, Mara, Riot, CleanSpark. You even have IREN. I mean, they mine huge numbers, and I think with their AI platforms, their hybrid approach, there's a lot of investors that like that as well. But overall, I think short interest is going to start. They're going to start covering. Um, CleanSpark, I think, is a company that also has huge upside. I just released a video on CleanSpark, so take a look at that on a more deep dive analysis. But one key thing here is like the 17.6 joules per terahash. Yes, IREN has the best. They're like at 15, but you factor in the hash rate that CleanSpark is at, close to 40 exahash. They're going to ramp up another 10 before, end of June. So they're like a big time player, number two right now with hash rate. But their downside is that they don't have the biggest, HODL count, but 10,000 is a number that, is equivalent to like what Tesla holds on to. But eventually Spark will start pulling through with their HODL count because of their high hash rate. But the unique thing is that their net margins, their profit for mining Bitcoin, they have upside because of their fleet efficiency, joules per terahash at 17. So their return on investment will be high. But you look at Mara, their joules per terahash is at around 21. However, look at the HODL count. They're like 10% of MSTR, so close to about more than 5 times the amount that CleanSpark has. Downside is their joules per terahash. They cost to mine is a little higher. However, think about the interest that they're making from loaning out their Bitcoin. So you see there all these strategies that really come into play. There's trade-offs with different strategies, and I think this is what Kong has been alluding to. Like, is it better to have HODL, or is it better to focus more on hash rate and fleet efficiency? So I think it's a balance, and that's what Mara is trying to master. Finding that right balance between keeping that hash rate continuously growing month over month, expanding the facility, but looking at fleet efficiency importance as well. I think fleet efficiency is going to be very important, especially once we get to the future, halving event. All right, so it looks like we got more people joining here. So I appreciate all the questions here. I mean, this is like a great opportunity to just talk about stocks, Bitcoin. Let's take a look at Bitcoin price here. Okay, so 104,000. ETFs. I mean, people are just buying up more Bitcoin. BlackRock, IBIT. I mean, there's been just billions and billions of dollars flowing into IBIT. You look here, cryptocurrency, Trump trending coin. I mean, up 367%. This was just created. Even Trump posted this on X here. We see Solana running $256. Dogecoin at 39 cents is probably going to start running soon. So there's so much activity here. I think people, who are heavily invested in like the S&P index, like VOO and all that, they're like seeing these returns. There's going to be more money inflows into Bitcoin ETFs. And what does that do? That's going to drive up the price of this main commodity here, Bitcoin. So just with the survey here, ending the poll, we're at 94%. Out of 18 votes here, 5% out of the 18 votes indicated no for Bitcoin not breaking the 150,000. So I think that there's analysts saying over 250K. So Smudger from the UK, thank you for joining. So Mr. Seong, yes, can't wait for fourth quarter earnings. Wall Street will be buying hard soon. So yes, you're right there. This Bitcoin cycle may be different because of all the adoptions in ETF. Star SS from Boston. Wow, we have people from all over the world. So that's crazy. I love it. And just thank you all for the support. And Robbie here from Singapore, from UK, from Boston. Yep. Just let me know where everyone is from. So here is, that's where I'm from. Hi, William. Thank you for joining, man. We have William, the Mara fanboy. So I'm sure most of you have seen like Kang Yang, Xiong, and William commenting. So those are like the top 3 commenters on the channel. So I really appreciate all that love and support. Okay, so the vineyards here, you would only loan out Bitcoin to short it. All right, so I think, yeah, thank you for joining. I mean, that's great feedback. It's just, weekends usually work best for me because, I'm like a normal person too. I have to, commute and, do my, have to work and all that as well. So it's difficult for me to do all that as much as I love to. So Mara number 1. So Indiana, SoCal, very cool. What city from SoCal? Indiana. I'd love to visit Indiana one day. Texas. Wow. And then Beat Ween, can you make some example portfolios on the spot? Travel, Germany, New York. Oh my goodness, this is crazy. So it's like it's all dispersed out from everywhere. Sweden. Wow. Thank you, Silver Crystal Design. I really I'm just fascinated by how there's everyone coming together with a similar interest here. So very cool. Germany, yeah. New York, I visited. Texas, I visited. SoCal, I lived there for some time. But Indiana, Sweden, Boston, never visited Singapore. No. You know, um, so one moment, I'm just going to respond to a text here. Washington State. Is that Seattle, Washington State? You're becoming an international tribal chief. That's funny. Okay, so we have UK, Sweden, Germany, New York, Texas, Indiana, California, Washington. Wow, that's impressive. So Robbie from just Singapore. Wow, that's amazing living in Singapore. Um, Yeah, I think a lot of people missed the boat with MSTR, but people who look at it in hindsight, seeing the drop off 50%, and now just seeing that run up, I think we're okay in a good state. Um, yeah, I mean, there. I mean, if it's easy, everyone will be doing it, right? I think we all have a stomach for volatility, especially investing in like MicroStrategy, the miners like CleanSpark. I think we all have an aptitude, our risk tolerance. We like to see things go from like CleanSpark 2024, back in February from like $6 all the way up to $24, like within a matter of like 2 weeks. You don't really see that with like these big time, you know, top assets by market cap like Apple, Nvidia, Microsoft. Granted, we've seen that upside with like Tesla, Nvidia, and Meta over the course of like a year. You'll see like substantial gains, consistent gains from like day to day. But overall, like with what we're invested in, we see returns that can be like 40%, 20% per day. So that's really the difference that we see. And Mr. Seong, I appreciate that, just the the positivity. As much as I'm not trying to just, be like a bull and just try to like, pump up the stock, I think when you have, conviction in something, then, you just, you talk about it. Uh, but, just with the upside potential, I think Bitcoin over the years, I think it's just proven itself to be the commodity, and we believe that the miners are going to become a business as well, right? Starting point, everything's going to be difficult. Like think about Tesla, right? Tesla, a lot of Tesla, like for their price, they went through multiple iterations of of reverse splits. Their share price was like in the thousand range. They went through reverse split, but early on, Tesla was struggling at first, up until they were able to design and manufacture and distribute cars. Now they're a mature business and they make money. We hear a lot about the miners eventually, becoming like $100 billion market cap company. Maturity is going to come. Oh my goodness, William, thank you for that donation, man. I really, really appreciate that. You didn't have to do that, but I appreciate it. Okay. I'm here. My goal is, I'm not trying to, do this because I want to do it for the sake of, you know, um, finance, but I'm doing it more for just enjoying it. My goal is to capitalize on the individual like stock investments, and all of us being able to, um, celebrate that together. But I think that was kind of you, William. So thank you for that kind thing that you did there. Um, but one thing that William, take a look at um, the hat. If you want to represent, all I see is W, you can go to that link and then get a all I see is W hat. I'll wear it maybe the next time. Um, but that'll be if you want to sport the all I see is W branding. But thank you all for joining. It was you that got me going. Like, oh, live. I used to do live. Maybe I should do it. Like, do it now. And then that's what drove me to do it. So I appreciate that, man. Um, uh, so Will, he's a big time fanboy. That's for sure. Yeah. I'll be like, because I'll be meeting up with some friends. Just outside of all this, I also love working out. I work out like 6 days a week. So I wake up very early, like around like 5 in the morning. I have to like drive, and then I work out. So I love doing powerlifting and all that. And I really encourage you all, depending on where you are with your health fitness, if you're not doing it or not, would encourage maybe just considering it, the benefits. Whether it's you prefer like walking or running. I do both. I love to run as well. I run like 3 to 4 times a week, but mainly resistance training, like lifting weights, like squats, deadlift, and bench. That's basically what I love doing, and I've been doing it for the many years now, especially like during the COVID time. So that's my hobby outside of all this that I wanted to share, and would really encourage you all to kind of consider it as well, just for health and well-being. Yep, definitely smash the like. Let's go. And thank you, Will. You are the man there, like what Kong mentioned. So, question from Kong: how would you allocate 1,000, right, for anyone considering investing more? You know, Here's the thing. Last week, when I got paid, paycheck, just standard work, right? You get paid. Uh, I was wondering like what should I invest in? Just looking at altcoins. Altcoins have been beat down quite bad. There's no movements with the altcoins. But now this week, all of a sudden, we see some run ups here, like Solana running up. You know, XRP's been just running up. I mean, the last 7 days, it's been running up. Solana 36%, Dogecoin 17%. I do have some sprinkled in like different coins and stuff, but instead I ended up buying Mara last week, and the week before that I was buying CleanSpark. So just to answer your question as to like which I would be invested in, it really depends. I think it's, one thing I learned is, it's good as much as you like a sector, balancing is key as well. Um, I think Mara has that upside, especially with it dropping to $16, $17. Now we see it to $20. So people are beginning to see that signal of like, okay, it's going to start running up. Um, but now when you see Mara run up to $40 from 20 to 40, that's a 1x. But if you were to get that at 16, 17 on that discount during those red days, it only needs to get to like, 32, $33 instead of $40 for that 1x. So really now it's just more of like seeing which ones are like on that discount there. Um, so that one, that 1,000, I think, whether you want to go 100% in the sector or do you want to like split that, you know, um, just I might not know the answer to that, right? But kind of look at things that haven't really taken off yet, or continue to just dollar cost average down. I think Clean Spark is still good opportunity. Mara is still good opportunity. Riot. I think where they are right now, they've kind of they haven't really done that bad in the last month. I mean, when you look at their year to date, they've been performing very well. But one of the things that I saw that was interesting with Riot is like RIOT's two-time the movement with ETFs. Let's say, Riot, if they hold on to this price, great. If they go up, great. But like if there's even more downsides, that $1,000, I would just continue to dollar cost average down when days are not the days that we expect to see, like on red days. I've been like seeing like different like um, outside of the miners. You want to see some heavy returns. If let's say you want to keep it for like short duration, those things run up very quick. So like let's say if it drops by like 10-15% in a day, that the next day before the market opens, you see like Bitcoin, like, okay, it starts running up. Those things will probably like ramp up very quick. But I think there's altcoins that have potential. Bitcoin also has potential. Just question here is that how does everyone feel about just Bitcoin price overall? Like, are you like into investing into Bitcoin? Yeah, just wanted to get like an understanding of everyone. Like, does anyone own like a Bitcoin here or a portion of Bitcoin? Current price 103K. It's going to be interesting because the top off was like that 108 right back in December. Wow, it may just break through that 108K. You know, Trump, once he enters, I wouldn't be surprised if this thing goes up to 110K or more. Any spike up to that all-time high, wow, we're gonna see MSTR, Clean Spark, Mara, Riot, IREN, Bitfarm, you name it. Those companies are gonna just take off. I think these miners, even though Bitcoin goes up to 110K percent increase from like a 7 day, 10 day, it won't be at that level that we'll see in the miners. That's for sure. Is my take. Yeah, I'm with you, Jay. Just mining stocks. I I think most of us here are like invested to some degree in the mining stocks here. So Mara will make many investors rich. The sky's the limit with Mara. And when is the first? Okay, so Clean Sparks, financial results. What about Mara's financial results and Riot and Iron and all of that? Because I think most of what we're gonna be seeing is like, um, so let's look at their event presentations. I don't think we have any updates here, but just news here, just to cover, what CleanSpark, just some updates with CleanSpark. 668 Bitcoins mined. So Mara, November data, they mined 922 Bitcoins. And then Mara mined a little less than that in December. But 800, 900. But I think eventually Mara is going to be at that part of like 1,000 Bitcoins per month. That's interesting. But you see here, this is huge numbers here because I think Mara is number one around 900, CleanSpark high 600s. Eventually it'll get to 700. And then the next level is you have like RIOT and IREN at the 500 range. So you see those values being established there. Wow, that is some pretty category there, Kong. Bitcoin, Solana. So Solana's been running up here. XRP, Ripple, man, it's been dormant for so long. Hopefully, we see what XRP just did with the miners. And that's kind of like one of the questions earlier, like, will we see that, that run up that we saw? I think that we potentially can. So that's all possible. Okay, so Riot's earning report is February 27. So it looks like CleanSpark is going to be going first. Mara, okay, February 26. Okay, so CleanSpark goes first. Solana, SUI, Bitcoin, Riot, Mara, CleanSpark. That's beautiful there. Robbie, so similar with me. I don't have SUI, I have SEI, but SUI is definitely performing much better there. Wow, Rob, I have a couple of coins each for my girls under 20K. I have 6 daughters. You are a big yeah, that's beautiful having a big family there with 6 daughters, and you bought your daughters coins under 20K. Oh, they're going to thrive in the future. I mean, once they get old, each coin, in the multi-millions. So I think they're set, just long and strong holding on to that. That's definitely a beautiful way to have them thrive. So good job on that, man. So we have here, so William, so Jay Dan here, big time Mara fanboy as well, along with others here. But to Mr. Siong's point, amazing job. Yep, definitely amazing job there. Uh, yeah, Solana. I mean, they're like. Let's take a look at the rankings here in terms of market cap. So Solana here, market cap at ranked number 5 here. So they're catching up. I mean, soon enough they're gonna break through that tether, that $1 range. It just stays there. People just put that in for interest. XRP, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how Solana moves up, but just people who don't believe in the Ethereum or do or the Bitcoin chain, the Solana chain here, there's a reason for it pushing up here, Solana. But with the price of Solana going down recently, definitely people were able to take advantage there. That's amazing. Yeah. Well, good job there, Robbie, on that, man. I think that's kind of why you're in Singapore. Everyone in Singapore is like doing really good there. So I'd love to visit one time out there. Mara is the new Apple, AT&T, the very beginning. The sky's the limit. So, William, we're talking about, just companies being like a Bitcoin bank, and I think that holds true because the loaning of Bitcoin, you got to pay for that, right? Like leasing a car, you go to the dealer. All of that is basically loaning, so you got to pay each month to use the car. So in order to use Mara's Bitcoins for your ETFs, you got to pay in return. So travel here, I think I might rebuy CleanSpark on Monday before inauguration of Trump. So with Monday, the market close, are you still able to buy Bitcoin? I wonder if you're able to. I know markets are closed, but depending whether you're living outside of U.S., I think you can. But for U.S. investors, I'm not too sure. But hopefully you can do that. Um, but thanks all for joining. I mean, we have people from all over the world, from Sweden, from the UK, from Germany, from Singapore, from Washington, from Southern California, from California Bay Area, Texas, Wyoming, everywhere. So it's glad that you all are able to come together here. Oh, from the Netherlands, beautiful. Yep. Thank you, Wee, for joining here. Glad that you found the channel. Appreciate the comment there. Just trying to provide the details that I know. I mean, I don't know everything. I'm no expert, but learning along the way, getting info from everyone, uh, especially from all of you, and just communicating back. So Netherlands. So travel, do you think CleanSpark financial releases will be good in February? I'm going to say yes. So how much of Bitcoin? So we look at Bitcoin here. Let's just look at price of Bitcoin. So we scale back for a year. Okay, so then Q4 starts October, right? So let's go October here. So 60K is basically the start of Q1. 60,000. What's the end of Q4? Okay, so at around 93,000. So 33,000 appreciation. Okay, so each Bitcoin went up 33,000 from that quarter alone, Q4. So I'll put that in the chat. 33,000 per Bitcoin increase in the quarter Q4. So depending on how much, let's say, for example, CleanSpark had, 10,000 Bitcoins. 10,000 times 333,000. That's basically the value. Okay, and then you subtract that with, like, I don't know, their fixed costs. Whether it's like 36,000 per Bitcoin. So basically, the increase of Bitcoin is basically offset by the rise. So all of that is net, like, profits. That's all revenue there. So yes, I do think that the releases are going to be good. Earnings per share is going to be the actual earnings per shares is going to be way better than the expected earnings per share. But that's going to be priced in. We're going to start seeing that be priced in, like, even late January, early February. But then we're going to see more of the catalyst push based on how people react. Okay, so there's a difference. Even though it hasn't happened yet, we can see some pricing in happen, like with the avid investors. But during that time when we actually get the data announced, there's going to be some reaction to that. That's most likely going to drive the price up. So I hope I answered that question. Yeah, so personal price predictions with CleanSpark. Oh, the fair value rule. Yes, Kong. Yes, that's a good point. I think fair value. That's why now companies like the fair value rule. I think there was a recent accounting change where you don't have to like sell. Yeah, you don't have to transact your Bitcoin. Let's say if like you transacted your Bitcoin at one point before like 2022, it was like at 18,000. You don't have to make a transaction to have the fair value be reflected. I think current value applies based on HODL, so it's more simple now. Okay, so then here, Willie Lala, I think Mara, we have a couple folks here who believe Mara, can run up to $100. But definitely we're going to see that retest $30 potentially, go up to 50 to 100. Clean Spark, I don't think that it's going to be not possible for it to not break through $18-25. It could very well get up to $50. RIOT, I think that it could very well retest $20. We saw that last year. $50 potential 2025. Miners really haven't had the opportunity to show what they can do. Market cap, I think, is just going to start maturing. We saw what Tesla did. It took time for Tesla to become a mature company. Their market cap now is trillions of dollars, and price is like grown so much. But we're going to start seeing that too. Miners, start maturing, becoming like single-digit billion market cap companies to like 100 billion market cap companies. Yeah, so that's a great question. It's hard to time when, right? But I think, just how we see seasonality, just basing it off of just end of year seasonality, because the miners have underperformed in the year 2024, we're going to see some huge upsides. Let me just show one example with Mara. Okay, I'm going to pull up just some analysis of Mara here. Okay, I like looking at seasonals. All right, so let's take a look. I won't show the year 2025 yet because there's not so much data points here, and maybe just make it more less here. Okay, just 4 year. Okay, so each line represents like a year performance. So let's go back to the earliest. Okay, so 2021, 200% gain for Mara, end of year. 2022, what happened after that? All of that just depleted. 90% drop. That's just you basically lost everything. Huge drop off. 2023, wow, it just ran up by 600%. People started buying because it got oversold there, right? You see huge overperformance, similar to like what we saw with like MSTR this year. But what happened in 2024? You know, 27% drop from that. So that's pretty substantial as well. So where I see, you know, um, 2025 being is, somewhere between that purple and the green is what I'm seeing. But let's look at what we've seen so far. So at least what we're seeing here is 15% 2025 performance, but I'm thinking it's just going to start climbing back up with the course of time. That's how I see it. So does that answer Wee Wee Lala? So just with it being a Q1, that's not going to be so much time. So we might just see Q1 Mara price go up to like 30%. But I think within the course of time, throughout the remainder of the year, we're going to see that percentage climb up. So people who just sell early on in the quarter might not be able to take advantage of that increase, but it really depends on your investment style, whether you sell and then you rebuy back in. But I think overall, all in all, we're going to see that, that 3 to 5x potential in between what we saw with 2021, 2023 numbers. Hope that answers your question. So Robbie, Mara has the volume with notoriety and their hodl incredible. Yes, I agree 100%. So great questions there. I love it. Okay, so I'm just going to put okay, so I put a question in the chat there. See what everyone has to say there. All right. Do you surprised if Mara make a movie like GameStop? I mean, Mara, we saw, Mara on StockTwits. They even had a big run up recently as well. So there's going to be some GameStop type of, possibility. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. But anyways, guys, I'll take one last question because I got to start getting ready. Got to go meet up with some friends. They're visiting, so haven't seen them in a while. But we're gonna be doing some lifts together, so it'll be nice. Get our workout in, and then just connect again. But we have like 24 people here. But I really love and appreciate everyone here, just joining on, providing feedback. One last question that I could, answer if there are any. Um, but just really appreciate everyone, joining from everywhere, all over the world. Um, but hopefully we have, some huge upside heading into the new uh, week with inauguration coming up, Trump 47. This is really going to drive up, the Bitcoin commodity. We're at like 104,000. 2025 is going to be a great year and more years to come. Bitcoin price is just going to start climbing that ladder, eventually bypassing gold. Over 100 trillion is a possibility, and we're just going to continue to see, the growth in what we invest in. All right. Well, uh, thank you all for joining. Please make sure to subscribe and like if you guys aren't yet. You know, but here's, Kong Yang, thank you. Yes, there's one question from Will. What is your favorite miner to make the most money overall? So, William, I'm going to say my answer to that, I'm going to say the big three, because I think that the hodl is going to be a big variable that has not been priced in yet. The big three. We're hearing, about the Bitcoin bank kind of leasing out your Bitcoins, right? But we haven't had an official, explicit kind of contractual agreement between the government and these miners. That's why the big three is going to be huge. Yep. But thank you, Willem, for your kindness and all that you do, along with everyone here, Kong, Mr. Xiang, and Robbie, everyone here, travel, everyone just commenting. Yep, just you continue to grow, not just the finances, but growing with your health set, your wealth set, your soul set, your love with others, and just continue to thrive, everyone. And we'll do this again. You guys have a beautiful weekend, and hopefully you guys can enjoy the rest of your day. But thank you, and we'll talk more. Okay, thank you guys. Bye.